Carlton King, former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Blood.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, but actually majors in on geopolitics. This week, we're looking at part 2 of the programme I started last week, obviously, with Firgas.
So just going back to Carlton's earlier point about the instant meals in the armed forces, all right? Okay, so look, this is my kids' school menu for tomorrow, right? Like because I think school meals are an issue as well, right? Yeah. So look, the choice is fish fingers. But they're not fish fingers, right? They actually call them MSC fish fingers, right?
Which stands for?
You tell me, monosodium, monosodium something, right? But they're not even calling them fish fingers, right? So whatever they are, right? So that's choice 1, right? Okay. Option 2 is cheesy pasta, right? So it's basically pasta, margarine. It's not even butter, it's margarine, right? Grated cheese, but it's reconstituted cheese. Yeah. Salt, right? And UHT milk, right? That's the ingredients on this, right? Right, that's choice 2. Choice 3 is a sandwich. Right, again with margarine.
Crap bread.
yeah. Medium sliced bread, right? Choices are cheese, tuna, or ham, but they don't actually call it ham. They call it ham product.
Oh, I could just imagine.
And that's your choice. And quite literally, that's your choice, right? Do you know what I mean? It's so. I mean, Dr. Rachel's spoken to me quite a few times about the fact that every child is different and every child requires a different sort of school lunch to power them through. But there are some basic essentials that no school meals cover, and also Dr. Rachel is quite vocal about schools offering a no carb version, a no carb alternative, which isn't suddenly jumping on the Atkins diet. It's about the fact that not all children need carbs, right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Rachel, what I'd want you to do then is to look at that. But first, before I say that, is this not what Jamie Oliver tried to change? Because I remember seeing a program where he was saying actually the meals that they serve in schools have a lesser amount of money tagged to them. I think it's like £1.25 or something per person than they do in prison. Now, I'm not calling prisons down, they need food as well. But when we think of prison, we think of porridge, don't we? That they used to have just porridge. Yeah. Well, the school meals were worse.
Yeah.
So can you?
I think porridge would be more nutritious, wouldn't it?
Can you speak on that? Yeah, absolutely. Porridge would be more nutritious.
I mean, yeah, Jamie, he did a really high-profile campaign, didn't he, to get rid of processed food in schools. But you know, I mean, I look at my children's school menu all the time, and it's you know, it's really interesting. But it's not only that, and you know, it's that my children prefer me to make their school meal. Obviously I don't do like a packed lunch thing. You know, they like have a little thing with heated food that goes in. But when you look at it, you look at a menu, and it's sort of stuck in this NHS rigid, this is what children need, in that, you know, there's stodge on there's a little bit of protein, and like Fergus read out, it's like, you know, dodgy protein. I think the fish fingers, I think the MSc actually stands for some sort of fish management system. It's like sort of woke operating system for fish. It just made me chuckle, because I've looked that up before, you know, on my school menu. And like, you know, my children are dairy free, not because, you know, we're trendy vegans, because I really don't believe in veganism, because that's not how we evolved. You know, but I also know that we don't need to consume really bad processed meat. There's a happy medium in here, you know. So you look at what is actually given, and it very much looks like it's a profit making enterprise, rather than thinking, right, we've got all these little developing brains. We've got all these children who, you know, post-pandemic especially, I see so many children in distress. I see so many children who can't focus. I see so many children who are really struggling with life. And they're all going to be labelled. They're going to be labelled with some sort of mental health or neurological disorder, and that's not their problem at all. Their problem is just that they're distressed, and we should be very clear about that. We should never match distress with other mental health conditions. And nobody sat there and actually thinking, what does this little brain need? What does this nervous system need? And you could add in some really simple things, like good quality oil. Do a nice salad with a little bit of a French dressing on it. Wouldn't cost the earth. Would do that child the world of good. You know, having like chia seeds and flax seeds in, you know, just like mix it. You could mix it in with some of the vegetables. Wouldn't cost the earth, would make the hugest difference. You know, but they don't do that, because, you know, I've tried to challenge my local providers of school meals, and you try and do that, and they're so defensive. In me, oh, well, we have scientists who agree with this. And it's like, on whose payroll? You know, when do you actually ask people? When do you consult? When do you think, you know, get different ideas into all of this? And this is what we got. You know, you have people in an echo chamber all the time, don't you? You know, and again, there's that confirmation bias.
An echo chamber, absolutely. Worse than an echo chamber, I think you've got people who are being paid.
Yeah.
And who know why they're being paid. Exactly. So it isn't as though it's even that, you know, some poor scientist is looking at it and thinking, well, do I go against what my colleagues, my peers are doing? It's all been peer reviewed and it's all okay. I think you've got many people who turn around and say, you know what, I can make a good living out of this.
Exactly.
Let's just run with it.
And I think another problem as well, particularly with school dinners, is that everybody's been conditioned to have volume, you know, because that, you know, people can have volume rubbish food, and they don't mind paying £10 for it, even though actually you've just got a big plate of nothingness. So they equate quality with quantity, and it's like, no, you know, so children especially don't need as much as what they are given. And remember, this goes right the way back to the beginning, when it's like you're conditioning the brain to expect certain things. When really, if you looked at sort of what that little brain, that little body needed, certainly the portion sizes could be a lot smaller, but they could be actually have really good nutritionally sound food, which the brain and the body can thrive on. And instead, what happens is that they have this stodgy meal, and then in the afternoon, teachers are struggling to get them to engage because they're all going into like some sort of carbohydrate coma.
Well, this is perfect what you're saying, because this again takes us back to an old timer like me, you know, in the middle 60s, more than 65th year. Because what you would have is, you'd have in those old days, sit at the table, eat your food, until you've eaten it all, you don't leave. And I'm sure you've heard that, and everybody's heard that. You don't leave until you've eaten your meal. But of course, you weren't having the quantities.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. You weren't having the quantities which you have now. And you were probably just having a breakfast, a mid-meal, and what we call up north tea.
Right?
Right. So your evening meal now, and nothing above or below that. right? I know it started to become popular to say, oh, here's a little bit of supper before you come to bed, and some of my mates were getting that. But that was when, I think that's when it started falling away. Here's a bit of supper, or here's a bit of something before. Now, there used to be a time, I believe, and I know they did this in Spain, when there's 5 meals.
Yeah.
So, but of course, there were 5 small meals.
Yeah, 5 small meals.
Right?
Yeah.
Not large. So what you've now got is, you'll have your tea, as we'd call it now, and then people sit down with a packet of biscuits in front of TV and eat all the biscuits. Whereas when we got a pack of biscuits in the old days, that would basically do you for a week in a family of 8, and that was it. You're lucky you got half a biscuit at some stage, so, and half a bottle, half a cup of pop. You got your pop, half a glass, right? That's all you have, half a glass. Or generally 9 times out of 10, to be fair, it was more the, Ribena type thing, where you put a small little bit in the bottom, and then it was all water. So this is how things have changed, because now you take a big glass of fizzy pop, right? Whatever it might be, Coke or whatever.
Of it, yeah,
and that is full of sugar.
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't even get me started. Right? Are you guys aware of this drink called Prime at the moment?
Absolutely.
I've had my say about this drink.
Oh my gosh! Right. So for your listeners who maybe have zoned out of social media and the internet for the last a year, but good for you. Whoever those listeners are, good for you. But this drink Prime, so there's a YouTuber called Logan Paul who started up this this drink. Now there's 2 variants of it, right? One is essentially coconut water mixed with a lot of flavorings, and the other version is a very, very extreme energy drink, which actually technically should only be available for people over 25, right? And it's been marketed as each flavor comes out as a limited edition thing. They hype it up. They say, they've all got these names, these ambiguous names, so you don't even know what's in it. And as a parent, you don't even know what's in it. They're called things like, they're named after baseball teams and stuff like that. So you don't even know what's in it, right? And they retail for an unbelievable amount of money. Like children are quite happy to spend $5.99 on a bottle of drink.
Well, in the beginning, I shall tell you, it's Logan Paul and KSI who both put it together. And they were both big YouTubers, one in Britain, one in the United States, massive YouTubers. They do boxing together, etc., etc. These guys are arch money makers. These guys know how to make money on everything. So in the beginning, they brought out an extremely limited edition on purpose. And I heard that some people were paying up to, listen for it, £2,000 for a bottle.
Exactly, and now there's YouTubers. Now the trend is like, so it's a status symbol, right? So not only do the kids spend all their pocket money on these drinks that you don't even know what's in them, right? But then they save the empty bottles, and then they put the empty bottles on their social media, right? Yeah. And there are people who've got bottle collections that they reckon are worth $1 million, right? Correct. It's mad. It's absolute madness, because you still don't know.
That is official madness. It really is. I just want to say here and now, if there's anybody listening, I judge. That kind of madness.
I mean, I had to the other day. I had my kids in the car, and I had to say to them. I literally had to say to them, right? Just think about the price of one of these bottles of drink, and think about what good you could be doing for the world with this money. Think about how that money would benefit a food bank. Think about how it would benefit an animal in a shelter. Think about how it would benefit a child in the third world, right? Just think about this money. Think about the commercialism behind this blooming drink.
I would literally go to the chemicals and the ingredients and say to my children, and this is what it does to your brain and body. This is the poison within it. You are a bit more altruistic than me.
Yeah,
but I don't even know what's in it. That's the thing, because they're all, they're all named after.
No, look, it's money making, and it's money making at a superb level. And to be fair, most of the so-called what we call entrepreneurs would say that's fantastic. If only we could get away with that. And so that's what they do, but they are getting away with it. As I said, plant-based became everything. Dr. Rachel, tell me about plant-based fast food, because that's what they've done. They've created fast food plant-based.
Well, they like jumped
No
on
better.
they've jumped on this bandwagon of, veganism, and, people are not thinking properly, literally, and not being able to think properly is a bit of a precursor that you need some B12 in your life to help your prefrontal cortex. And some of these ultra processed, fast plant-based foods are literally, you're putting poisons in your body. It's like the things that have got no nutrition, but actually they really trick the brain. The brain doesn't know whether it's coming or going, so it doesn't even view it as food. It disrupts your biome, so all your lovely flora and fauna in your gut that actually keeps you well. And there's a massive connection between the quality of your gut biome and your mental health, and this whole plant-based thing. I don't know, when I see plant-based, it makes me not want to buy it, because I thought it's just a gimmick. It's just something to make money off people, and I get so saddened that the general population, the majority of people, get taken in by these lies. And they don't question it, and then when somebody puts their head above the parapet and tries to tell them that this is not good for you, veganism is not good for human beings.
Can you explain that? Please explain to the public why veganism isn't good for human beings. Explain that.
For the majority of people, it's really difficult to metabolize B12 from anything other than animal products.
Sorry, again, Dr. Rachel, B12, explain that to the
vitamin public. B12, it's one of the vital vitamins that we need to have cognitive processes. So where
would we get that from? Sorry, and then just carry on.
Where we get it from, predominantly beef, but any kind of animal product.
Right, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I was looking for.
Sorry,
right,
and I am not saying that everybody needs to eat, a 25-ounce steak every single day, but we need to have a small amount of good quality beef, during the week, just a small quantity. Like I say, you don't need to have a huge quantity. But what's really important, and this is what everybody should be caring about, and this is sympathetic to people who want better conditions for animals. I'm very careful about the provenance of my food. I'm very careful about sourcing, both farmers and butchers who work hand in hand, so you actually understand sort of the field to plate process. If people actually realize and understand where most of these plant-based foods have come from, they are not natural. You would not actually think of them as plant-based. They are so far away from plant-based. They are literally lab food.
But the problem is,
going back to the beef thing though, right? I mean, like God, but back in the day though, I mean, even when I was a kid, you had Sunday roast, and then you had leftovers. You had food made from leftovers for the rest of the week, right?
Yeah.
Or at least until Wednesday, and then I don't know what you had, but do you know what I mean? It's like that's how that's how society ran, wasn't it? You didn't buy.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't the money there, was there? There wasn't the wealth there.
Well, but it's not. Yeah, but it's not just about the wealth, is it? It's about actually, and it goes back to this ritualistic, eating. We shouldn't have rich foods on tap. We shouldn't have sugar on tap, but we do it, and it takes away the pleasure, the niceness, the humanness of it. If you just think about, Sunday lunch, you sit around, probably, everybody's around the table, you have conversation, it goes on for over an hour, doesn't it? And then, like you say, you have the leftovers, and then on a Friday, it's fish and chips Friday. That's what it is, fish and chips Friday.
Absolutely. So what I wanted to get to, though, was the fact that we've got this meat, which we eat. We've then got other people turn around saying, no, do not eat meat, because that's speciesist, right? Because you've got to look at, yes, there's some people say I don't like the taste of meat. Fair enough. But behind most of it, whether they just don't like the taste, is that it's speciesist. Now, that becomes problematic when you take that to its 8th degree and you say, we can't eat anything that has anything to do with a species, which is why you have these people that don't eat fish either, or don't eat eggs, or don't eat anything dairy, anything like that, because it's basically speciesist. So can you tell me how these people can function?
Well, they don't really, do they? You look at them and they don't look well. I mean, that probably sounded really facetious. But you see these people, and I look at them, and they don't look well. They really don't. And I often think about these organisations and the kind of people they send to do their PR and their media, and I'm like, you've literally sent a child who is really unwell out to meet the wolves. And it really makes me ponder at that kind of strategy. But I look at them; they're always pale. You know, they have signs of anemia, and you know, they've no vitality behind the eyes, and they are sticking to a script, and they cannot come away from that script. You cannot have a balanced discussion. You know, I'd be really happy to talk to these people. And I have very specific needs with my B12 requirements. You know, I have problems with B12 anyway. I have to inject myself monthly with a certain type of B12. And most people who are going to do something as extreme, and it is extreme because, you know, we evolved having some meat in our diet, and again, it goes right the way back, and we've not adapted to not. Is that we just, by virtue of looking at a human being, we are equipped to have some meat in life, and our body and our brain certainly expects it, and it's sort of, you know, we have to work in club and just say to people, you know, how do you expect people who have got certain iron needs, or certain folate needs, or certain, you know, other mineral needs to be able to get them in their body if you are saying that no one can eat meat? That it's species.
Rachel, is there another way of obtaining B12 other than via animals?
You can, you know, there's all sorts
because
of,
that's what they'll say.
There's all sorts of supplements on the market, but for many people, the only other way is to inject yourself.
Right. Okay. So you don't really want to be doing that. Now, actually, excuse me, interestingly, you just mentioned about talking to people. Now, Rachel, Fergus and I were talking about actually doing some tours and talking with individuals. You know, if you could one of these days, we'd love to do a sort of a tour and a speech with you, because I think it would be superb getting 3 different views as to how the systems in the world work, and having a medical view is interesting. But that's by the by. It just came to my mind, and I'm saying it as I hear it. So if you were up for that, we would, you know, we'd look at that.
I would definitely be up for a tour, definitely.
Absolutely, we can super. We can talk about that subsequently. So
I just want to say something about the veganism and all the rest of it, which is quite an obtuse point, but it just it pinged into my mind, right? I remember being at primary school and learning about Captain Scott.
Yep.
Right. And the other guy, the first guy who gets to the South Pole, Captain Amundsen, right?
Yeah.
And I remember reading the Ladybird book about it. And one of the reasons that they, and, you know, obviously, like, they were sort of saying, oh, you know, Captain Scott, he was a hero, blah, 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 even though he came second. But one of the reasons that they cited in this Ladybird book that sort of always stuck with me is they said, right, that Captain Scott had dogs, had huskies, and he had ponies to get him to the South Pole. Mm-hmm. And Amundsen just had huskies, right? And one of the things it said in the book was that huskies, you know, if a husky dies, the other huskies can eat the husky. Mm-hmm. So they had a sort of steady food supply, whereas ponies, they had to take the extra food for, because ponies can't eat a dead husky, right? And the huskies were sort of like the more
adaptable.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's one of those weird things that's always stuck in my mind, because I always thought, God, that was quite an out there thing to have in a Ladybird book.
Absolutely.
But I just really remember this, and it's that thing, isn't it, of like, well, if you're a pony and you're just designated to have that plant-based diet. Well, that's how you're built. But if you're not built to just have a plant-based diet, then
that shows two things, actually. You've hit on two things there, Fergus. One is, this is quite interesting, one is that you've talked about a species that cannot eat meat in that way, right? Which is interesting because it's not adapted to do that. And maybe then it might be the reason why it's not running the world, right? And secondly, you've talked about a species that's happy to eat itself if it comes down to it, which I guess humans are as well in reality, although it's all hidden. So what I'm saying is that, push comes to a shove, as we know from the plane crashes in the Andes, and you need some food. Well, there he is, fill your boots. So this ability to eat whatever as it comes is actually important. And I think that there are societies whereby, I'm thinking of an India example, whereby they eat plant-based things. But the way I understand it was, it's not exclusive. It isn't them saying we won't eat anything that's not a plant. It's just that that's what's abundant and that's what we eat. Yeah.
Well,
As there
my
are
understanding of
some
the
in the
Indian
African
diet,
continent.
my understanding of the Indian diet is that it's about sort of it's more sort of about hygiene, isn't it? I mean,
The different societies, the different parts of society, different parts of India.
there is
You're
meat.
talking about Hindu, yeah. You're talking about the Hindu is hygiene, they don't eat a cow,
Yeah.
etc., etc. But there's other parts of that Indian society, it's a massive country, where they tend to just have vegetarian food, but not because they're trying to be vegetarians, if you see what I mean. It's just because that was where the abundance was.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar like in African tribes where the goat herders, where they'll eat goat on really special occasions, and it is a special occasion, but the rest of the time they will have whatever is to hand. And I think this is really interesting. And as you were talking, I was actually just thinking that actually to promote veganism in Western society, it's very indulgent. It really is. It's when you look at the cost of it. I mean, I get so annoyed because I mentioned before, my children have a cow's milk protein allergy. They actually have a proper allergy. We're not being fancy here. They actually have a proper allergy. Yeah. And the premium that they place on other milks, apart from soya. Now, the thing is, if you've got a cow's milk protein allergy, you're likely to be allergic to soya as well because the proteins are the same size. So it's like, we're like, we're constantly punished wherever we go from the dairy allergy. So I have another invested, conflict of interest here, another invested hatred of veganism because everything's more expensive for me because of it. But when you look at it, and it's like, it actually is a very indulgent pushing onto society. It's like, sort of preying on people. And this again, I'd love to come back and talk about virtue signaling with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, very important. It's absolutely important. And we will do that. We will do that because it goes into all arenas, doesn't it? What we're talking about now.
Yeah, and this very much, the whole thing around vegan is very much about virtue signaling and what you want to portray yourself to other people. But when you look at sort of the ultra processed nature of vegan foods, and no doubt there'll be diehard vegans who've been at this since the 80s, but they'll have sort of nailed their vegan recipes, so that no doubt there'll be, not all vegans will be ultra processed vegans.
Exactly, they won't be eating processed food, will they?
Yeah,
they will have taken actual proper plants.
Yeah, they'll have taken hummus to a new perspective, won't they?
Yeah. It's where it is now, whereby you're getting folk who, and again, oftentimes, there's a thing called Game Changer. I'm not advertising, but it is there. It was on Netflix. It was very, very good, and it's talking about all the athletes, like example Schwarzenegger, who he has gone over now to plant-based foods. Etc. And he's a guy who used to eat, 10 steaks a day and all this sort of stuff, and he was doing his body. And you've got Lewis Hamilton, he's on it, etc., etc. But these guys aren't going down to Tesco and grabbing the nearest thing. No, these are having proper people who are performing this role for them with the freshest of fresh and putting
Yeah.
it forward, and then they're getting that and they're eating that. And
then how much their supplements? How much is their supplement
absolutely, how
bill?
much are they? Absolutely,
Yeah.
this is the point. How much are they, as you rightly say, costing?
Yeah.
Number one, and more importantly, how much are they totally plant-based? Because I don't think, if I'm right in saying that Hamilton example was totally plant-based. I said that's his preferential meal. And I think that was the same for Schwarzenegger. It's my preferential meal. It's what I eat most of the time. But now and then, you know, I'll eat a bit of a cow or something or whatever it might be. Fish.
Which is what we've been talking about today, isn't it? To do that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But Morrissey's still alive, isn't he? Like,
was he ever alive?
Oh.
I'm chucking that one in as a curveball because everyone I was at sixth form with, right, was vegan because of Morrissey.
Right, interesting. So that was it.
But I'm pretty sure he's still alive, isn't he?
Yeah, he is still alive.
Is it right?
But but you have to look at the demeanor of people. And is he happy to be alive?
Was he happy in the first place?
Exactly. This is the thing.
Or would he never have been able to make the amazing albums that he made if he wasn't miserable and vegan?
Yeah, well, there's that.
Well, he spoke to the adolescent brain, which tends to be slightly psychopathic.
Interesting. So just to tune her up, just to come through to the end of this second episode, because it will be split into two for people who are listening to episode 2, and to come to an end of this particular discussion, because I think it warrants the level of time that we've given it, because it's a massive problem for people. So, Dr. Rachel, I'd like you to finish through and to explain how we can't get the band, okay? We are a heavy person, let's say, and we cannot get the band, right? Because whatever, the National Health Service won't give it us, or because we're not in the United Kingdom and it costs a lot of money, whatever it might be, we can't get it. So what's the other way?
The only other way is you're going to have to realize that your brain is always going to want you to overeat. So you're going to have to be really, really strict with portion sizes, and, understand that until there is any kind of shift in the brain, that you are going to be battling yourself, because this is what most people don't realize, is that they think that their deficit or anything, the brain is really strong at getting you back into what it knows. It has really good tricks to do that. So you're going to have to be really, really careful with portion size, and actually you need to have an understanding that you are never going to feel full. And that you are probably never going to be able to eat and I'm putting this in air quotes, in a normal way, that you are always going to have to be really, really strong and disciplined with both what you are eating and how you are eating it. But I would say to most people is that they don't, there's so much shame and there's so much embarrassment, is that you may be surprised. You might have to go on a waiting list. You might have to go through different clinics before you get to see a bariatric surgeon. But it is actually worth just making inroads and actually looking at all the research around it. Because... But
Dr. Rachel, what I'm saying is, in the United Kingdom, maybe that's a given.
Yeah.
But many places, United States example, who listen to this, Australia, who listen to this, you're not going to get that paid for. So that's going to have to be on your insurance.
Yeah.
And the insurance company might not pay for it. So the question then is, and if you think about the United States, where obesity is just blown out of all, it's massive.
Yeah.
You're clearly not going to get that. So the question is, and this is what I'm trying to say, the easiest route. Now, I mean, because it's got to be the most difficult thing to try and set your brain back to zero. And you say you can't do that.
Well, the easiest thing is just to never eat again. Yeah, never eat again. Never eat again. No, seriously, have the replacement shake, but choose one which has actually got no sweeteners, no artificial sugars in it. is that, you know, if somebody has such a problem, it's like you really are, and this is just to show how serious it is. And an alternative to that, start lobbying yourself, get people together. You know, if it's not available in your country, start making people actually understand that it's an environmental thing. And what's really interesting is that even if your mother or father haven't had a weight problem and you have, any children or any grandchildren you might have will have this in their genetic makeup. So it's not just you are fighting for with this, it's for your descendants.
So it's highly important, though, because just the other day, example, Fergus said on the last podcast we did, she said basically that, or two ago, she said that if you basically went for the weight drug, this and this and this would happen to you. And Fergus will say what that is. But what I'm saying is that this is really, really, really now important. You know, you've got 20, 30 stone people and 50 stone upwards in the United States, people knocking about who need some type of way to get off this without having to spend for them, I would imagine, tens of thousands of dollars to try and get, you know, the band. So what I'm trying to think is it's not, I don't mean an easy route, it's never going to be easy, but a trick, I would love
to be able to tell you the magic pill here, but there's no evidence, there's nothing to support that. For every one person who can manage to lose 30-40 stone by themselves, there's tens of millions who can't. And I'm saying this because I don't want anybody to think that they are a failure because they can't do it. You know, the only thing, you know, to suggest is to get, you know, a very low calorie diet, which puts you into ketosis, which you burn fat rather than any carbohydrates. But as soon as you stop doing that, you will revert back to an eating pattern like you were before.
Okay, so let's say we manage that. Let's say sorry, I know I'm being stark here now. Let's say we manage to put in ketosis, we've done it, we've had the discipline to go through X amount of months, or 10 months, I don't know, you'd have to tell me. So we've had that discipline, we've got to that, and we're now going to, I can't keep this up all my life, so let's now start eating normally. How can we eat normally that wouldn't put weight on? Or is it that you eat, even if you eat even just a little, you'd still put the weight on because that's what your muscle memory is, to have that weight.
You would still put weight because you know it's like a predisposition for your body to return to a certain set point, and no matter how much you think you're eating less, your brain will convince you that you're not eating as much as you did before, and you know that's where the problem starts. It's really you know, it's like I really wish I had like a happier outcome to this. I really wish I had, but I suppose this is why it's so important that you know it's taken seriously as a public health issue.
Absolutely.
Not an individual issue. It's not about the person who can't stop eating. This is about an environment that we all live in that actually is poisoning quite a lot of people.
Exactly.
And what I should say,
it's a global thing. And look, I'll let Carlton wrap this up, but because I'm conscious of time, but I just wanted to say one thing, right, which is that I have literally just gotten a spam email, right, from Just Eat, right, and it says, taste the summer with Just Eat this July. Add a Coca-Cola, Fanta or Sprite for your chance to win festival tickets, Just Eat vouchers and Coca-Cola vouchers.
Yeah.
Order now.
And there we go. There's the reward system in the brain activated just there.
Absolutely. But you see, what I'm still trying to give listeners an opportunity, because for many who don't make a lot of money, going to, I don't know, Popeyes in the United States, and don't get me wrong, it's tasty, or to McDonald's or to pizza, whatever, where it's using a lot of foods which are manufactured. And it is tasty, you know, they get a big amount of that, which they can't make it that cheap themselves, they think, right? And so therefore they're eating that, and it's just continual. So is there some sort of I know there's a lot of pills advertised, and I got this from Fergus the other day, and maybe Fergus can say very quickly, is there some sort of pill that can be taken? Very last thing, and then we're going to wrap up.
There is always a pill that can be taken and an injection that can be injected, but it's what happens after you stop that.
Gotcha. Same problem.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Rachel, thank you very, very, very much once again.
You're
for
welcome.
Your time. We will explore the possibility of a tour. We will have you back on again on your dreaded subject of virtue signalling. We'll have you back on. Fergus, anything you want to say?
No, just that we all learn something every time Dr. Rachel's on, don't we?
Absolutely.
And just to say to the listeners, like I always say this, LinkedIn is the best way to message me, because if you saw my inbox, it's pretty crazy. But thank you everybody that has been messaging me on LinkedIn, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Brilliant. And please do speak to Dr. Rachel as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Dr. Rachel, see you again.
See you again. Thank you, Carlton. Thanks, Fergus.
No problem. All the best, ladies and gentlemen. See you again next week. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.